Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for another video. And today, I'm speaking to pretty much this guy's a legend when it comes to the kids and family entertainer community over here in the UK. He is one of the biggest and highest profile magicians that are over here. He is absolutely crushing it, and I don't know many people that know him as much about branding and image and the importance of just being that person as this gentleman I'm interviewing now. He's had massive success and continues to have massive success, and I know from speaking to a lot of people in the industry, he's a huge inspiration to a lot of people as well. I'm willing to bet that a lot of people overseas that aren't in the UK won't have heard of him before, but I guarantee this is an interview you're not going to forget, especially if you perform for family audiences or kids shows. You're going to learn a heck of a lot. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Chris Frostie Frost. How you doing, Frostie?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you. That was lovely.
True, though, it is. Like you, and we'll get into this in a little bit, but you seemingly came from nowhere, and now you're everywhere. Like you're everywhere. Like I can't turn around without seeing something to do with you, and the stuff that you do is so high profile, and we'll talk about this as well, but you embody what I think a modern family entertainer should be, both in terms of your attitude and how you put yourself across, and your image, and you're just everything. It's just, I think that you're the perfect example of how it should be done. So I'm so glad that you found time to come on the channel. Thanks so much.
It did take me 10 years to come from nowhere. It's a lot of hard work went into the appearing from nowhere.
That's it, you know, like point to an overnight success and I'll show you somebody who spent 10 years, you know, working hard to be an overnight success. But you know what? There's a lot of people that watch this channel that aren't in the UK. Now, pretty much everybody in the UK knows who you are. You know, you've got the Magic Circle certificate there behind you. You're a member of the prestigious Magic Circle. You're literally everywhere. But for the people that maybe don't know who you are from different countries, can we start off by talking about your origin story? Would that be okay, Chris? Before we get into everything else, I'd love to talk about how you got into magic and what your origin story is, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So everybody always sort of says very similar sort of things about where they sort of started in magic, and it's the same for me. I got pretty much every magic set as a child. So people talk about the Paul Daniels magic set. I'm a bit old. I'm a bit young for the Paul Daniels one, but I had stuff from Stephen Mulhern as a child, Sutty's magic set, Marvin's magic sets. Marvin's magic sets used to have the most amazing things. They had I had one which was a little plastic man, the Magic Man, and you could put a balloon through his head and put the ears through, and he had a little tie that went up and down and stuff like this. It was a really fun magic set. And every Christmas, it came to the point where at Easter I was going, I don't want chocolate, I prefer to have a magic trick, as a child. And then I became a teenager and magic kind of left for me. I kind of went, I'm not too sure. I loved magic, but it became a bedroom hobby rather than anything else. Of going, when my brother was 18, I was 14, I went to Davenport, we went to London. What do you want to do when you're in London? It's your brother's birthday, but you can pick something to do. So I was like, oh, there's Davenports, I'd like to go there. And we went to Davenports, and I saw a guy doing a card manipulation thing and just pulling cards out of the air. I was like, wow, that kind of really got me. But at the same time, I was like, it's cool, but I magic wasn't something that I really to do as my job as such. I was singing and dancing and acting and going to stage school and stuff like that, but I wasn't interested in magic as such. I just enjoyed it as a kind of thing on the side. Never thought about it being a big deal. And then when I was 17, I was at college, and I realised that I really didn't want to go to university. It wasn't for me. And I looked at Bucklins and Pontins and all that kind of stuff, which in the UK is, I guess, the best way I can describe it in my knowledge of American stuff is in Dirty Dancing. You've got the camps in Dirty Dancing where the dance teacher is. So that's kind of what it is. Like, you've got these kind of camps which are entertainment camps.
Yes.
And I auditioned for a few of them, and I also auditioned for a company called RJP Entertainment. And I got offered a job in Pontins, and I got offered a job in Spain. And I went, okay, I'm going to go to Spain. So at 18 years old, I got on an aeroplane. I was terrified. I'd never left home before, and I worked for a guy called Ronnie James Piper, who you know and I know, and is a massive, great big deal. And back then, the House of Illusion was a tiny little thing underneath another bar. And I didn't work in the House of Illusions, I worked in the hotels. And I was singing and dancing and doing all the stuff that like during the day, volleyball and water polo and all that kind of thing. And I remember the first show that I did for Rodney. And we were doing it in the hotel. And I did this weird Austin Powers dance thing that I used to do, and there was lots of sort of songs and stuff in it. And Rodney was sat in the audience, and afterwards we were all singing. We walked off stage, and Rodney is very blunt with people, and that's a good thing. I totally admire that. And Rodney sat backstage and said, "Well, how do you think that was?" We went, "Oh, it was brilliant. Everybody loved it." And of course, the audience will love it because they've seen you all day, every day for their holidays. They've become friends with you. They're gonna love it. And he went, "Well, it wasn't great." And then he went through and told how terrible it was, which kind of makes you go at 18 years old. You go, oh. And then over time, so that first season with Rodney, I was there right until the very end, and Rodney really pushed me to be as good as I physically possibly could be. Not as a magician, but I was working with magicians. So there was Wayne Goodman that was out there. There was Matt Edwards, David. Oh, can't remember his name, but everybody was really, really great. There was a magician. I was quite close with Wayne. I used to go to Wayne's on my day off, and we'd have a couple of drinks, and we'd watch Penn and Teller. Never heard of Penn and Teller, didn't know who they were, and we'd watch a DVD of Penn and Teller, and I'd be like, "This is really, really cool." And so I kind of got this love for magic back that I didn't have before because I was working with magicians. And then I started working for Thomas Cook, and I was singing, traveled around Europe working for them, became entertainment manager when I was in Ibiza, and I saw a lot of magic acts, and I went, "That's great," or I went, "Not too sure about that." I saw some really great stuff, and I saw some stuff that wasn't so great. And I could see what worked with the audiences as well. And then I went to Portugal on my own, and when if I can do it for Thomas Cook, I can do it for me. Became a entertainer in a bar over there, and just went, right. They didn't want to be the same as every other bar, so we did karaoke the same as every other bar, and I DJ'd the same as every other bar. But I also did things which were a bit random, and it was lovely because it was I quite like surreal stuff, and I quite like the idea of just absolute nonsense and just throwing things at people and seeing what happens. And I think that was a really big learning curve for me, was doing that, because I went, okay, this works, that works, this doesn't work, and I could really play with the people because I was never going to see them again. And if they left, it didn't matter because more people would come in. We had a really good turnaround. We were on the main strip in Albufeira. So that gave me a license to play with my audience as much as I wanted to. So I did magic, ventriloquism, I did stupid comedy sketches, just daft stuff. I did a thing where I put a plastic sheet on the floor and got the bar staff to throw drinks over me whilst I sang the theme tune from Titanic, dressed as Celine Dion. It was a really weird thing. And then I came back to the UK. Didn't really know what I was going to do with myself in the UK, but I thought I'll move to London. It's a big tourist resort. If I can do it in any other tourist resort, I can do London. And worked for Marvin's Magic. And I mean, that was just a superb thing to do. It's a really big career step because I was selling lights for Marvin's Magic and red sponge balls. And red sponge balls were the very first magic trick that I ever bought when I was a kid. 4 red sponge balls and 2 squeakers, one that works and one that doesn't. And so I was selling these for Marvin, and I was just selling them. I really could sell, 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 sell. I was selling out every single day. I got to the point they put me in Phoenix in Brent Cross once. I was in Hamleys most of the time. They put me in Phoenix in Brent Cross. I called up my boss and went, "Hey, do we have some more stock in the stock room?" And he was like, "Oh, we should do, but why?" And I was like, "Because I've not got any left on the shop floor." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I've sold it all." And he went, "What?" He was just shocked. And so I went, "Okay." And that was great and wonderful. But I also started doing Magic Frostie, which was my kids' parties, the weekends and stuff. And it got bigger and bigger until that was that really. I went, I can't really do both. So it's an overnight success, but with all the backstory behind it, it's not.
That's incredible. So I've got a lot of questions. Listening to that, I've got a lot of questions. I suppose the first question is, when you started working at Marvin's Magic, is that when you got back into actually performing magic? Because up until that point, you were talking about working in these bars and at Thomas Cook and here and there and the other, where you were watching magic acts, but you weren't actually performing magic yourself. Was it at that point that you kind of then went back to performing magic?
When I was in Portugal, I did, to be honest with you, I was probably a better magician when I was in Portugal than I am now, because I was performing in a bar and it was all adult stuff, and so I was doing stuff like those stupid comedy sketches. But then I had a deck of cards, and I was like, well, it's quiet. I want to keep these people in the bar for as long as physically possible. Like in the winter months, I'd go up to a table, I'd sit down, and I'd sit with a deck of cards and do really good magic, which is something I don't really do anymore. But by the time I came back to the UK, and I almost had to unlearn how to do some of my sleight of hand, like with sponge balls. I'm probably worse at it now than I was then, because when I worked for Marvin's, although you don't want to expose how the magic's done, you also don't want it to look too perfect, because you want people to go, my child can do that. Which I genuinely believe a magic set is the best thing you can buy a child. I believe it's a really great confidence builder. Even if the child doesn't want to be a magician, having that thing where they can go, oh my goodness, I've learned to do this, and show their parents. But yeah, I was working 5, sometimes 6 days a week, performing magic, for Marvin's, whereas I was maybe doing a couple of nights, a bit of magic here and there in Portugal. It was I knew I wanted to perform. I didn't know what I wanted to perform, which was really interesting in 2020 as well, when I went, do I just want to be a magician? And when, no, that's not what I want from life either. So now I'm in a really unusual place where magic is just one of many other things.
And I want to talk about that in a second. But before I do, when you first obviously set up Magic Frosty, it was all about magic shows and
Yeah,
party packages. And obviously there's other elements to that with games and dancing and so on and so forth. But
yeah,
a big part of it was the magic show. That was a big USP.
yeah.
Did that come about as a result of you working at Hamleys? Were you sitting there thinking, well, you know what? You know, I've come here to London to try and replicate the success I've had in Portugal. And there's less places, although London is a touristy place, there's less places that offer that same sort of. In London, there's less places that will do that. You know,
Yeah.
Butlins, Pontins, tons of holiday parks, they will, but not really so much in London. So was setting up Magic Frosty and doing the magic as a direct result of working at Marvin's and going, well, you know what, I can take this and I can make my own thing and I can do my own thing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't think about doing it. I got told to do it. Marvin's Magic is brilliant for people that want to work in the industry, because Marvin and the people in Marvin's Magic want you to do well. They don't want you particularly to stay forever with Marvin's Magic. They want you to progress.
Yeah.
That's how I always felt. Anyway, I was being told, we love you and we adore you, and the door will always be open. And I know that if I rang up, if I said, look, I've got no gigs in for 3 months, and I don't know what's happened. I know if I rang up, I could go back to Marvin's Magic straight away. I'd always have that door open to me. But I got told, they said, look, you're really good at this. Why don't you? The other thing that my kids' magic was, it was very important that it was real magic. It wasn't, here's the hippity hop rabbits and stuff, a red one, a blue one, a green one, a purple one, or whatever. It was real magic, so sponge balls, card tricks. That's changed over time, but back then I was doing proper magic, and I was doing magic in the store and going, this would be great in a kid show. I understand kids. I never really grew up, so I understand kids, and I went, this is good here, this is good there, and Bruce, who's one of the main men at Marvin's, was like, put together a magic show, go out and do it. And it was money as well. I mean, London's really expensive to live in. The idea of charging, which seems now like very, very little, but 150 quid to do a magic show for 45 minutes was like phenomenal amount of money back then. And this was only 10 years ago. And going, wow, if I charge 150 quid, that's how much I'm earning in a day to do 45 minutes. This is crazy. How does that work? And now I realize that actually that wasn't very much money at all. Everything's relative, but back then I was like, this is exceptional. This is really, really good. And it was something I needed to pay my rent.
Yeah,
London's hard.
London's expensive. So I suppose I want to talk about your philosophy as a kids entertainer, but let's wrap the whole story up first. So you did kids parties and they became very successful. You set up the band Magic Frostie, hugely successful. And you say that you've transitioned away from magic shows a little bit, and that's just one aspect of what you do. Do you want to tell everyone what you're doing now and how it differs from what you did when you first started setting up your party company?
So I do a lot less kids parties now. I still do kids parties, but I do a lot less. So now I get employed by Hamleys, which is where I was doing Marvin's Magic, to do a 30-minute show, or I get employed by the holiday parks that wanted to have me as a coach to do my cabaret act and stuff like that. But my cabaret act it starts with a mentalism routine. It's then got a song. It's then got a magic trick. Then it's got another song, then ventriloquism, and finishes with a song. So it's actually only got 2 magic tricks in it. But it's got 21 minutes of vent in it. It's quite a lot of ventriloquism, and it's probably got less magic than the songs probably add up to about 15 minutes, 15, 35, 10 minutes of magic.
Wow.
But they still advertise me as a magician, which I find really bizarre.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. It's you're more of a variety performer, really, aren't you? When you like that.
But what I also do is I carry in my case about an hour and a half's worth of magic.
Okay.
And then it means that if I get presented with a audience which are a little bit unusual and I wasn't expecting, then I go, right, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. Pull all that stuff out and just hammer through the magic. So I've got stuff like I always carry factory blanks, Tom Stone's factory blanks, because it's a really strong routine. But I also use a cooler to swap that pack of factory blanks out to a blank deck. So the factory blanks are not a blank deck, but look like a blank deck from a distance. And on stage, you can see the marking, the card. So you can do a card trick with a blank deck of cards. They can say what their card was out loud. You say what card they're thinking of. It's like a pseudo hypnosis thing. And then I say, and you can keep the cards. And then they go and sit down with the cards. And they're out of the hypnosis. I can't hypnotize anybody. They're out of the hypnosis, and when they look at the cards, they're like, "Oh, they didn't have anything on them."
That's great.
Which is a really nice chunk. Is a 15-minute chunk, getting somebody up, talking to them, and I talk to my audience as well. I try and I do the opposite of what a stand-up comedian does. I talk to my audience and I massively them up. So I find out their name, I find out where they're from, I say something nice about that place rather than making a joke about it. I find out what they do for a living and I build them up to be a hero. And then I do some magic with them, because the problem with the difference between stand-up and magic is massively intrusive and people worry that they're going to look stupid. Whereas comedy, making a joke out of somebody is almost, well, that's the thing, isn't it? But
Yeah.
in magic, people don't like magicians a lot of the time because it's quite scary and horrible to go on stage and be tricked. So yeah, then there's the kids' parties. So I still do kids' parties. Obviously, you've got disco and stuff like that, which I do, and I've got some sort of unique games that I've written. And then one of the things that I did was I kind of went, I want to make my own magic tricks. So I've got about 7 tricks which I made myself, because one of the things I find with, so you're a creator, yeah?
Yeah.
And the stuff that you create is gorgeous.
Thank you.
And it's close-up stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of a problem with a lot of kids' magic, because it comes out, it's brand new, and it still looks like it was made in 1975. The graphics are horrific on so much stuff. And every single week, you know this because you do the reviews of them, every single week, magicians are bringing out more and more close-up magic that's absolutely phenomenal, or maybe not so great, but it's usually made to be beautiful. Whereas kids' magic comes out and they go, and here's the thing, and it does this, and there's the routine that goes with it, and it just looks a bit crap. So I'm like, can't put that in my show because it doesn't go with what I do. It doesn't look right in my show. And then you have got people like Wolf Magic, so Chance Wolf in America, making magic. The beauty of those things are just fantastic, and that can fit into my show. And then I look at something and I go, that's really cool in this country, and I go, but it doesn't look great. And I do think it's improving. I think it's getting better, but I still think it's got a long way to go to match up to close-up magic. And so, like, I've made this, which is my magic spell book. I've got one there, and I wanted something that looks gorgeous. I wanted it to look, so this is a colouring book. It works to say it starts blank, and then you've got magic smells that are inside of it, and then you've got magic spells that appear inside of it.
Lovely.
But I wanted it to be on brand and in my show, rather than I bought this thing, it goes in the show. So I created my own magic because the stuff that was out there wasn't good enough. That sounds really harsh, doesn't it?
Not really. That's an amazing approach. I mean, what you're doing there is you're making your show completely unique. You're looking at it and you're like, okay, what can I do to make that fit my character and who I am? And you're not doing something off the, because the problem with buying something, whether it be a close-up trick or a stage trick, is everyone's going to do the same thing. And normally everyone's going to do exactly the same handling. So you have a bunch of people going out and doing kids' parties and they're all doing the same handling and the same trick. Yeah. And you don't do that because it's unique to you. Have you ever considered taking these creations and selling them? Because obviously it's a double-edged sword. I mean, there's an advantage to it because you're getting a name known as a creator, and obviously there's an extra income stream. But then you're watering down your brand because now you're giving that prop that's unique to you to other entertainers that will be doing it in their show as well.
So I do sell them, but I don't make lots of them. And I'm careful with who I sell them to. That sounds, so I've got a little Facebook page, Frostie's Phantasmagorium, and so these ones here, I've made 20 of these books. I've got 5 of them because they're made of paper and they won't last forever. So I've got 5 of them, and then some people have, and I charge a little bit more than probably, well, I put that one out, the magic spell book I put out there, and I put it into a magic forum, and I got somebody going, "You're charging 43 quid for a magic colouring book," and I'm like, it's a magic colouring book, but if you don't want it, don't buy it. Like that's like where I think you'd say because I watched some of your videos and stuff, and you did a thing about being a creator and to go to with it, and Penguin Magic and Murphys and all this kind of stuff like that. But the idea of it just being bastardized across the whole of the Mac community just makes me go, "Oh my god, no!" Uh, so yeah, there's some things which I do sell, some things that I keep to myself and don't sell. I lecture on the things that I keep to myself. When I do a lecture, I lecture about those things on the fact that I think the thinking behind that thing is great, but the effort that's gone into it, most people won't go to replicate it. And if they do, then fantastic. I'm really pleased they're doing it because they put the effort in. But if they can't be bothered to put that effort in, then they don't deserve to have it.
That makes absolute sense. And let's talk about trick selection. I mean, let's talk about your kids' magic show for a minute, because one of the things that I've always said is when you're doing a kids show, you want to try and do magic that's going to impress the adults as well as the children, because ultimately it's going to be the adults that are going to be potentially booking you. And yes, they're going to take the reaction of their child into consideration, but also if they've enjoyed it. And, you know, I see so many forums on Facebook and people go, I have a trouble with parents talking at the back of the room. How do I put up with it? And I always say, well, the best way is to do magic that they're going to enjoy as well. Then they're going to be it becomes more of a family show as opposed to a kid show. And that's something that I've noticed that you do as well. Am I right in from the videos that I've seen, and from I've never seen you perform live, but from everything I've seen and read, that's a philosophy that you share as well. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing without audiences talking, I mean, most of the time, I don't find it a problem. I set my room. The moment people walk in, I want them to feel like there's magic in the air. So I don't play kids dancey music as people are walking in. I want them to walk in, and I've got what I call theme park music. So it's that like very quiet, almost like almost Harry Pottery, but it's not. It's stuff they don't know, and it's just twinkling in the background. And then I mean, having a decent sound quality is good as well for parents, because if whispering is a really helpful way. If you shout over the parents, then the parents are going to get louder. But if you whisper really quietly into a microphone, so it's not quiet, but it makes boom, ow, whoa, what's going on? And then my first piece of magic is, well, it always used to be sponge balls, is what I always used to do as my opener with a child. And it's such a strong piece. It's such a strong piece of magic. It's so unbelievably strong. Now I'd actually do a vanishing handkerchief routine with a silver scepter, but I don't do the. So Frostie isn't a fool. The character that I play, I'm not a fool. But everything, like Basil Fawlty, I wouldn't say is a fool. Basil Fawlty has a very good idea of what he wants to happen, and how things happen. And I get incredibly angry with the child that's on stage, because I put the handkerchief into my hand, and when it comes out of my hand, I'm looking the other way, and the child that's up with me, I get furious with, and they're going, I didn't pull it out, and all the other kids are telling me they didn't pull it out. I go, well, it didn't just come out by itself, did it? And they're going, yes. And then obviously with the silver scepter, that goes down over there. I go, right, well, if you can't have nice things if you can't look after them. Push this down over here with the silver scepter with the handkerchief, and then the silver scepter goes up instead of the handkerchief, and they're going, that's gone up now, and I'm going, and then I realize, oh wait, there's magic happening here. So the things that happen around me, the things that go wrong, rather than, I think is so much of the time in children's entertainment, like it's so chaotic and manic, and I'm a very calm children's entertainer with the world going chaos around me rather than me being chaotic and
Yeah.
causing chaos.
And that's such an important distinction. No, it really
Yeah,
is. But from that, what I can see is that you understand your character completely. And a lot
yeah,
of kids entertainers, and family entertainers, they don't understand their character.
yeah.
They go out, they play the role of a generic magician, and that they don't really understand who they are or what they're trying to achieve out their show. And one thing that I've always been so impressed with you is that you have a clear understanding of your character, to the point that everything that you do, every prop that you buy, every way that you move, every way that you dress, your hair, your glasses, everything, it's all designed to accentuate that character. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, these aren't the glasses that I wear on stage.
I know,
These
I know. I'm referring to your stage glasses. Yeah.
yeah, everything is in character. Which I've recently changed my character as well.
Really?
I've matured my character because I've got two kids and want to spend time with them, and I'm not as happy-go-lucky as I used to be. So I went, well, look, for the next 20 years, I can have a 6 and an 11-year-old child. I don't plan on being famous ever. Nobody will ever know what my life is outside of my character. I think fame's all right, but it's not. It doesn't. I don't think it would work for me. And so it's something I've never really pushed for. So Frostie has got a 6 and 11-year-old. I've got a 7 and a 10-year-old. So my children are 6 and 11 in the show, and I am now angry dad rather than being, hey everybody, hi, I'm Frostie, because that's not me anymore. And parents can relate to my angry dad character, and so can kids. Kids know that they wind their parents up, and they're not allowed to. So the idea of having a guy there that's an angry dad that they can wind up is it's great for the kids. And you can do lots and lots of lines. I mean, I sat and wrote probably, I will sit down for an hour or so and write lines, jokes, and the things that I say to my kids and stuff like that, and go, how can I push that into my show? And then parents relate to it as well, which means that the whole show ends up being a lot more relatable. And where being a 35-year-old man with two children, 7 and 10, but 6 and 11, is quite lucky. Is in 10 years' time, I can be a 45-year-old man with a 6 and a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, and in 20 years' time, I can be a 55-year-old man with a 6 and an 11-year-old. So I've changed my character to sort of reflect me a bit more, my life, and the where I am in my own life, but also for longevity as well.
Mm. Was that a scary thing to do? Because obviously you built up a huge brand for yourself as Magic Frostie, and thousands of kids will have come and seen you be Frostie.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of work that you get comes from word of mouth, because people see you and they want to book you again and again, and the kids that go to your parties. Was it concerning the day that you switched that character, knowing that somebody might ring and they've seen Frostie, and then when they get you at the party, you are the same guy, but you're not the same guy?
I think it wasn't an overnight thing. It was something that I started to notice happening. I was tired, and I've got long COVID, and I can't do as much as I used to be able to do. And I am getting older, and in 10 years, 20 years time, I'm going to be even older. And I don't plan on stopping. And I've got a lot of energy. I'm a very high energy person. I've got ADHD, like that is me. This is me. This isn't an act. This is the way I am, all the time. It must drive my poor wife insane, but this is who I am. But I'm not as where I was. So I realized it was happening anyway, and went, okay, I need to address this. I need to address the fact that I'm not the person that I used to be. And also, I think with kids entertainers is that if once you get to 55 years old and you're still acting as though you're 18, it's really weird and odd and not quite right. There's some it doesn't gel properly with the audience. So I went, right, that's not working quite the same way as it used to. I need to address why. I'm getting older, I'm getting fatter, I've not got as much energy. I need to talk about it, because otherwise I'm just this guy pretending it's not happening. And if you pretend it's not happening, then you end up going, it's not right. It's not the right. It doesn't work for the audience either. So it's better. The audience are in a better place from me doing it.
And I was about to say that. I bet you if you know, the bottom line is, if you enjoy performing, the audience will enjoy it as well. Your enjoyment will shine through. And if you're if you're having more fun playing the role of this angry dad character, then that's going to shine through to the audience as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the way I best describe it is that I used to act, because I'm a big comedy fan. I love comedy, but I used to be more sort of like Milton Jonesy kind of style, and now I'm more Jack D. Or even, actually, do you know what I watched the other day? Friday Night Live, Ben Elton on Friday Night Live, and I went to Amy, my wife. I went, that is his style of presenting. Much as I don't find him particularly funny, I thought, wow, the energy that he's got hosting that show and presenting it is phenomenal. And I was like, that's what I want to push towards. Like, that energy, it feels great. I think Ben Elton would be a really good children's entertainer, because he's got that spark.
I completely agree with you. So let's talk about your brand, because obviously you've got a very recognizable brand with, regardless of character, you've got a very recognizable brand with the hair and the glasses you wear on stage and the outfits and being so colorful and so on and so forth. I suppose, how important is that branding? Because again, a lot of kids entertainers, a lot of family entertainers, they don't really have a brand. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I tend not to. When I go out and do a kid show, I'm in a kind of a suit and a shirt and a tie. I kind of go that sort of route, but I'm always bowled over by watching you. I kind of get the impression from watching you that when somebody books Frostie, they're not booking a magic show, they're booking an experience, and it comes across with everything that I see. And you kind of epitomize that. Jeff McBride always says you got to be a magician 24/7. And I feel, I don't know if that's the case, but it comes across like that on everything that I've seen, that you are that, even though you're not that character, you are that brand and that character all of the time.
It is me. I mean, I didn't dress up for this. This is the way that I dress. This is who I am. But then I'd argue the other way, that a lot of children's entertainers don't understand branding. So they go, so at the moment my hair's half and half. This is from Halloween. I've got green hair and I've got purple hair. But so let's say, as an example, green and purple. You get people going, everything is green and purple, and that is my brand. And I go, well, that's a shit brand, isn't it? Like, it doesn't mean anything. But talking about brand is understanding what Starbucks is as a brand, because most magicians go, there's two things the magicians say, and they go, everything is orange, that's my brand. And the other thing they say is, and the reason they book me is because I'm me. And I go, but you don't understand what you are. You don't understand. They're not booking you because you have orange stuff and because you're you. That's a load of baloney. It's nonsense. You aren't you. That's the first thing. You aren't you. That's not what you're doing. A brand is the way that I feel about Alton Towers. So Alton Towers, the moment I hear Hall of the Mountain King, and have done since I was a child, I know that's the music from Alton Towers. I know what to expect. I know the now Disney's brilliant at it. Disney's fantastic. You know what Disney is, and you know what experience you're going to have with Disney. So from a client point of view of brand, because we look at branding the wrong way, magicians do. We look at what we want to portray to our clients rather than what our clients portray of us. And once you flip that round and go, right, I want people to experience something, and I want the value of what they have to be the brand. So they go, I wear a cheese bow tie, but that's not my brand. That's something I wear. That's something that is part of my persona, my cartoon character. But people go, oh, he's that guy with the cheese bow tie. He's good because he does this funny thing where he gets slapped in the face with a hand. He's good because the magic that he does is really strong. He's good because he's actually funny. He's spent time writing jokes and they're funny. And we've not heard those jokes before. So parents and clients and kids as well, kids understand branding. They understand that they like Paw Patrol. You like Paw Patrol.
Love Paw Patrol.
But it's a phenomenal brand. It's fantastic. And you know that from the beginning of that show, you're going to have an adventure that runs through. You know what's going to happen in the different places in Paw Patrol. You know what the color scheme is. You know, but the problem with magicians is they don't understand branding. They just talk about branding. They go, it's orange, or it's purple and green. That's the brand, and I'm me. And they can't hire anybody else that's not me. And I go, well, actually, they can. They can hire loads of magicians that are them. But if you're doing something unique, then, or your patter is unique or whatever, because everyone's, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are still doing a chop cut routine in exactly the same way that Paul Daniels did it all those years ago. It doesn't even need to be children's entertainment. It can be any entertainment. If you're doing the same as somebody else, then you're not you, and you're not, that's your brand. Your plagiarism is a brand, and that's rife. It annoys me, the branding thing, because people just don't get it. And you have to look a bit further into like Starbucks and knowing that they want to be the third place that everyone gets to, and Coca-Cola and the values that the client has of that company.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that is incredible advice. I've spoken to a lot of people on this channel and asked advice about branding, and that's probably one of the best answers I've got, Chris. That's amazing. So let me ask you another question. Slightly deviating off topic, but you mentioned you've got 2 kids and obviously you're married. A question I get on this channel all the time is, how do you juggle home life and work life? Now, that's a really important question when you're an entertainer, especially you're talking about doing cabaret circuits and you're doing holiday parks. You can be on the road. You have to get there for like 6 o'clock. You're not going to get back until very, very late there in the week. Then you're doing shows on the weekend. I mean, there can be days when you might not see your family or your kids. But I know you've got a very happy family and you guys are very close.
That's because they don't see me. That's why they're happy.
That's what I've been doing wrong. Right. Okay. No. So do you have any advice on this? Because I know it is something that people struggle with. And you know what? And I'm sure you know this as well. There's several children's entertainers and family entertainers and magicians that have just basically left the industry after COVID because they spent lockdown spending time with their family, and they kind of said, I don't want to go back to not seeing them again.
Yeah. If anybody ever gets the answer to this, then I will buy it off them for all the money I have, because it's really tough. And this summer holidays, I messed up. I booked too much work in. I didn't really see my family and spent 6 weeks away from home, going from Haven Holiday Park to Holiday Park. And it was horrific. I adored being on stage, but I missed my family so much. But then at the same time, we're not that worried about the energy crisis. We can afford to. I'm sat in the conservatory and I'm toasty. It's fine. We've got the money, but I didn't see my family, and that's really tough. I guess I'm in a weird position where I've got something that I built over 2020 with Amy. Amy's a fantastic painter, and we built and painted up a crazy golf course. And that goes out of 500 quid a day. I pay my member of staff that goes out with it 350 quid a day, and I get 150 quid a day for it, which is passive income. And there's wear and tear and stuff like that, but it's very, very rare that we actually have to do anything with the crazy golf. So I always want to pay people fairly, and what I would like people to get and what I would have liked to have got when I was coming into the industry and that, because I think that often people don't get paid as much as they should do, and I think that's an important thing, because then people want to be they'll be happy and they'll stay and they'll do the right things, and I want to give people good work conditions that work for me. Not that I've got lots, but I've got a couple of people that work for me here, there, and everywhere, and the golf is passive income. I think the only way you can do it is by getting your diary and taking out a Saturday and going, I'm not booking anything in for that. It's not in the diary anymore. Because even if you leave it in the diary and like, oh, I might not do that day, just rip it out, get a paper diary, get it and take it out. That was from previously this year. That's not just me pulling around the page. But yeah, just pull your weekend out of your diary. Like, go, I'm not working that weekend, no matter what comes in. If you offer me £10,000, I'm not going to do it. Christmas Day, I will not work on Christmas Day. I get the phone call usually once or twice a year, and they go, how much will it cost to have you come and do your Christmas show on Christmas Day? And I go, you can't afford it. It doesn't exist. There isn't a number. I'm with my family that day. But then why is Christmas Day special? I'm not Christian. I'm not particularly that into that. It's a special day. Well, we should have special days all year, not once a year, because that's the day. You can't go birthday, Christmas. Once a month, there should be at least one day of the weekend that you go, that's a day I'm spending with my family, and there is no amount of money that will take me away from it. That's how I work, because money's not that important.
Yeah.
It's not that important. Nothing's as important as that family time.
That's really, really true. So there's nothing that would convince you to work on Christmas Day. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
You got a chance to perform for the royal family and you got paid £500,000.
No.
Wow.
No.
You've got to do that, haven't you?
Yeah. But then that's the same as the third Saturday of May.
What?
Not there's no special occasion. It's just a day that I've gone, I'm not working that day.
Yeah.
So if anybody tries to book me for February the 27th or whatever, and it's a Saturday, and that's a day that I've said I'm not working, it could be the royal family, £500,000, and the answer's no.
The answer's no.
The answer's no.
And I think you've got to stick by your guns on that sort of thing, haven't you? You really have.
Because my family time is more valuable than money. And my relationships are more valuable than money. My relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids is more valuable than money.
That's great. That's great. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of entertainers that don't take that approach. They kind of have the attitude of, you know what, I want as many gigs as I can. You know, I can always get, but you can't get that time back.
No.
You know, I've got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, so roughly the same age as your kids. So I know what it's like.
But then also, I think that was a 2020 thing as well. Before 2020, I wouldn't have done that. But since 2020, I've gone, I want to spend that time with my family. I care deeply about them. I know people that have got divorced and all this kind of stuff like that over shows and things, and lost their families because they're working too much. I don't want that. And they didn't want it either. But it happens, and it's mega important. It's super important. And it's easier to struggle together than it is to struggle on your own, because there's going to be months where you don't earn as much money. And if that's because you've turned down one gig, then you've turned down one gig. It's not your fault. It's okay to struggle sometimes. It's okay not to have enough money sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not okay not to be with your family, because my wife struggles if I'm not about sometimes. She's like, oh, the kids are doing my nutting. All this summer holiday thing, the kids are at home all the time. off jetting around being Frostie, and Amy's ringing me up going, the kids are doing my nuts and I just wish you were at home. And I'm going, I'm really sorry, I'm in Cleethorpes or wherever.
Yeah.
I can't come home. So that was a mistake I made, and it's a mistake that I won't make again.
I totally understand. So let me ask you another question. Again, deviating off subject. Well, going back onto subject actually. One thing that you've always struck me as from following you online is you come across as very entrepreneurial. You don't seem to, and I might be wrong, but you don't seem to be in a situation where you're happy to settle. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, they'll build up a show with kids, you know, a kid show. They'll get lots of work and they'll be like, yeah, that's all I want to do. I'm happy with that. That's all I want to do. You seem to be always pushing for something bigger. Like, you know, the golf course is one example. I'm pretty sure that, you know, at some point in the last couple of years, there was this extravaganza, this Frosty festival or something that was just like, okay.
I messed that up though.
What? Because
I did mess
there was
that
a
up
buzz
though.
all over the place with that. That seemed like really awesome. Like it's inspiring to watch you because you always seem to be pushing for that next thing, which is
Yeah. I have lots of ideas. I'm an idea person. I'm not always very good at following through the idea. So Frostival was the most amount of money I've ever lost doing something, because I went this on paper is such a great idea. We're going to hire a load of fields. We're going to put on a family festival. It's going to be buy your tickets beforehand so that people have bought the tickets. And then we're going to have 3 stages with children's entertainment on different stages and family entertainment. We're going to have family activities, this, that, the other thing. Don't have to pay for anything once you're inside. It's all inclusive. You bought your ticket. That's that. It's what I'd like to go to as a festival. And what loads of parents would love to go to. The thing is, the problem with it, and so I had to pay for all the acts and everything, and put deposits down for acts and stuff. And lots of people, thank you, because some of them will be listening to this, said, don't worry about it, it's fine. And lots of people went, look, you paid the deposit, I can't do anything about it. Like, I blocked that in my diary out. And I go, yeah, which is what I would do. So I lost so much money on it, but because nobody bought tickets.
Oh man, I didn't realize that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
But that's a live and learn thing, isn't it? Like if you don't do it, then you will always have the what if.
Yeah.
And that's something that I can't deal with. So I don't know if it's being an entrepreneur as such, because I'm not very good at it always, but I can't cope with the idea of being on my deathbed and going, what if I did that and it worked? I prefer to do something and to lose the money and for it not to work than for me to go.
It's that whole thing about taking risks, isn't it? I'd rather be in a situation where I can look back and go, at least I tried, than looking back and going, if only. I don't want to ever look back and go, I don't want to have an idea for something. And then I see 2 years later, somebody else has done that thing and I didn't. And I had, you know, I'd rather tick that box and go, you know what? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But now I can't be mad at myself because I gave it my best shot.
Yeah, absolutely. That's me down to a T, that is. And then, I mean, the dragons, I bought a load of dragons in 2020 to back with, and then realized, well, I really like fantasy stuff. And I didn't know how to market the dragons. Fortunately, I've managed to sell the dragons to people that do know how to market them. But I went, this is going to be great. People love Game of Thrones. I don't watch it. I don't like Game of Thrones. How do you market something if you don't understand it? Not a big Harry Potter fan, not particularly. Not Lord of the Rings fan. Don't like fantasy stuff. Why did I buy dragons? But I went, well, I'll buy some dragons and I can do it. At the same time, built a crazy golf course. Here's something which I've started to learn with age. With age comes wisdom. If I do something and I love it, so I love going to crazy golf courses. I find them fantastic. And the more technology advances, the more crazy golf gets better. But from a kid, I've always liked crazy golf. because I can be enthusiastic about it, I can sell it. I can market something that I love, but I can't market something that I hate.
Mm.
And so it doesn't matter how great something is on paper or for other people. If I don't like it, I find it really, really tough, which means that if I ever do release magic through anything, at least I know that I can stand there and go, well, I love it. I use it. I love it. It's not going to be a case of I've made a magic trick to sell. Or it's not going to be a case of, because that happens in the industry. Or it's the same with customers. I love my show. I think it's really good. And if I didn't have the confidence to stand on stage and deliver it as I believe it is really good, then some of the stuff that I do is absolutely ridiculous. The audience wouldn't believe. They wouldn't find it funny. Like my cabaret show is off the planet. It's very bizarre, but I like it and I believe in it. And the audience need to have confidence in the person delivering something like that. Like Harry Hill. If Harry Hill is doing something stupid with confidence, you go, yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But if somebody was like, oh, even a little bit unsure about delivering that thing, then the audience would be like, nah, it's stupid, don't like it. So with anything that I put out now, I need to one understand it and invest in as well. Cryptocurrency, I can't invest in cryptocurrency because I don't understand it. One of my friends made like 100K on cryptocurrency a couple of years ago, out of 10K in like 3 months, just going boom, 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 boom. And he was like, you need to invest in this. And I was like, I can't, but I can invest in candy floss because I understand that a spoonful of sugar makes a big thing of candy floss. That's £3, and the sugar itself only costs £7 and you can get this many spoons out. So entrepreneurial in a way, but and with age comes a bit of wisdom of knowing that I should only ever invest in things I understand. And I understand entertainment, but I don't understand running a festival.
Well,
We'll do that again.
At least you tried, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I want to ask you one more question about, and I want to circle back to the Frostie Imperium. I've always been terrible at saying that word. Your magic shop, Frostie.
Yes.
The question I've got for you, do you have any advice when it comes not necessarily to creating magic to sell, but do you have any advice when it comes to creating magic that you can put into your show to make it unique? Because that's something that you've done throughout your whole career, and that's something that you continue to do now, and that's one of the big things that helps you set yourself apart from everyone else, so that when a kid they don't want a magician, they want Frostie.
Yeah.
Is there any advice on how to actually make the magic unique, or the not even the magic, the act? How is it, in your show? Is there any advice on that?
Pick something you like. So for example, I'm looking around it. Oh, this is cool, right? So I've got a garden gnome over here.
Okay.
So I've got a garden gnome on holiday in a donut. So I go, well, I like that. That's cool. And I've got garden gnomes in my garden. I like garden gnomes. So rather than having hippity hoppity rabbits, what if I could get a garden gnome and change the color of the garden gnome's hat? So it keeps changing all the time. And I go, well, that's something that I love, and it's something I'd like to explore. In fact, I wasn't even thinking about this, but now I actually want to do it. But if you like, one thing is, I'm a big kid, so I like dinosaurs. I really like dinosaurs. Not a fan of dragons, love dinosaurs. So what could I do with dinosaurs? And looking around. So Halloween's just been, yeah? So for Halloween, I wrote a show called The Monster Magic Show. which is really funny because this year I haven't been able to do it because I got booked by a tourist attraction to do a totally different show. But I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could make Dracula appear? And I got one of these big inflatable Halloween decorations of a vampire. Bigger than me, it's about 8 foot tall. Obviously, it goes small because it goes into a box. I've seen these before in shows where people have had it appear. I was like, but why is it appearing? So routining something is going, why is it happening? I was like, well, then you've got a bat. A bat becomes a vampire. But then I was like, well, what if it's not a real, what if a bat becomes a bat? So you've got a cricket bat that turns into a vampire bat that turns into a vampire when you put it in the box and you plug the thing in with your foot. So as you walk away, it goes up and all the kids go wild. So I just think of stuff like that and I go, what's something that I really like? And I think that's something, pick something you're passionate about. That could be Batman. That could be like anything, a flower. You like wrestling, yeah?
Yeah.
So you've got 2 wrestlers either side and you're going to swap their places and stuff. It's the same thing. It's the same magic tricks. There's only so much you can do in magic. Levitation, transformations, knowing the stuff that you can actually do and going, well, wait a second, I just don't care about a rabbit. What do I care about? And then going, right, okay, so if you go onto Dreams Time or Shutterstock, you can buy the images for yourself. If you're just making for yourself, that's relatively inexpensive. You can get these images and go to your local printer, say, look, I'm a magician. Make friends with your local printer. I'm a magician. I'd really like to make this on some Foamex. I want a decent quality, nice Foamex to build these onto. And then you've got your own unique first ever magic trick. And that's addictive, that is, because very slowly you'll go, oh, what about this idea? What about that idea? And then you can start adding themes into your shows and stuff like that without going, I mean, getting a printer to print out some Foamex and buying the stuff on Shutterstock or Dreams Time or whatever is going to cost you about 70 quid for your own trick. But if you were buying it from a magic shop, you'd be spending about 70 quid anyway to get something that everybody else has got anyway. So you might as well build your own and have fun. Enjoy it. Just have fun. Be a kid.
That's cool. I completely agree. That's amazing. It really is. And you're right. I remember about 7. I'm a massive Doctor Who fan. I remember about when David Tennant was around the first time. I remember building 2 TARDISes and having a transposition between David Tennant from over there to over there. And yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. 100%. On the subject of that, before we wrap this whole thing up, another thing that you do on the subject of theming is you always go all out for your Christmas shows and your Halloween shows and any show that requires theming. I see a lot of magicians and their idea of theming a show is putting on a Halloween show. Great, I'll put on a Halloween t-shirt, a Halloween shirt, and I'll reference a ghost when I'm doing my Silver Scepter thing. That's the extent of the theming, and you seem to really go all out. How important is that? Like, people are going to get booked for Christmas anyway. You're going to get booked if you're a kids entertainer in the UK at least, and you're not being booked at Christmas. There's something going wrong. So how important is it to actually make that effort to put that show that's not just a loose theme but fully themed for your clients?
So with the Christmas show is probably the best example. I would say that you either do it or you don't do it. So if you don't do it, you're going to get booked anyway. That's okay. If you're going to do it, so with me, I'm an elf, and I work, and Santa's in the show as well. So there's 2 of us in the show. Christmas, if you do Christmas wrong, and you've got Father Christmas and you're an elf, if you do it wrong, if you don't do it properly, then you are gonna get a lot of angry parents. and a lot of upset kids. It is incredibly important. I guess it goes down a little bit at like doing these Disney mascot things, which is something I don't touch. But if you're gonna do it right. It's something like if you get Santa wrong, then you've basically killed off your audience's belief in Santa. And I think that's an important thing, not just for kids, but for parents as well. I think it's a kind of rite of passage. So it's mega, mega, massively important. With my Halloween show, well, actually, my Halloween show, obviously, I didn't do it this year, and I'm not doing it next year because I've already been booked for next year's half term for the October. And they want the Wizard show that I did this year. So the Wizard show, I went, the tourist attraction that booked me to do my Wizard show got in touch with me before the tourist attraction existed and went, this is what we want to do. It was somebody I knew from Hamleys that was taking over as the events manager and basically entertainment manager. It was his vision. This is what we want to do. Can you help us do it? We want to put dragons in and puppets in and magic into this tourist attraction, Withenwood in Colchester. It's a new tourist attraction. And it's an immersive theatre thing. And I said, well, please don't put magic into it. Because your actors, if they're not magicians, if they flash or they get it wrong, or if you're making something magical, it doesn't have to have magic in it. However, if you're doing a magic show, it has to have magic in it. But being magical isn't the same as performing magic. So I was like, put smells into it, put smoke machines into it. But the theming has to be, for immersive theatre, has to be so on point. So with my Christmas show, I spray Lush Snow Fairy on myself, so I smell like an elf, which is great as well. Lee Alex, do you know Lee? Lee Alex, the guy.
Yeah, it's amazing, Lee.
So he's just released his Christmas vanishing bandana, not vanishing bandanas. That's a totally different thing. Devil's handkerchief. And they smell of gingerbread. And you go, well, that's such a big deal because it's an extra sense and it makes it more Christmassy. And things like that are so hugely important. And they're tiny little things. That's something you can't see, you can't hear. It's a smell. I mean, let's not talk about magicians and smell too much. But the way that you smell, I like. If you could bottle the smell of a thunderstorm, I think that's the smell of magic. Electricity in the air, just before it starts to rain, is the smell of magic. Now, if you could take that and put that into a show, that would be phenomenal. But I think all those things are important, and they add value. And adding value means you can add cost. And much as I don't want to sound callous about it, I want to charge a fortune for my shows, and I want them. But the only way you can charge a fortune for your shows is by them being really good, and by your customers going, I spent X amount of money on that show, but my God, was it worth it? Every penny.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel when I go to Disneyland. I spent $3,000 to go to Disneyland for 3 days. But my goodness, did we have a good time? Was it worth it? Yeah. Will we go back again? Yeah. Does it really matter how much it costs? Not really. We will save up and we will go to Disneyland. Does it matter how much a kid's party is? I think it does. Because I don't think enough magicians put enough effort in. So I think parents go, well, I'm just paying for a children's entertainer. And there's this, it's very easy to be very good, a good average, if that makes sense. It's easy to be a good average entertainer. And the same goes for close-up magic as well. There's like almost a set thing that I see loads of magicians, close-up magicians doing, which is ring flight, bonzalope, what's omnideck, double cross. You go, but you're not an artist. I think that's the difference. You're paying for an artist. Anybody can buy a poster from HMV, but once you go and get the acrylic painting on a canvas, it costs more. Which one would you prefer to have in your house? The acrylic painting from the artist is better. So as an artist, there isn't really a price point. People will pay whatever for the artist over the something else. I don't know what the other word is. A good average. Like, and there's nothing wrong with being a good average. And there's like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you want to elevate it and push it, then that's really what I want to do. And I want to help other people do it as well. I'm on the phone all the time to other entertainers going, why don't you just tweak this bit here or that line there and this bit there? I speak to magicians all the time about this kind of thing, family entertainers. That's what I understand. And close-up as well. I think the close-up magicians need to be better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Yeah.
I think it's
very easy as an industry. It's very easy, whether it's family entertainment, kids entertainment, close-up. It's very easy to make a good living being average. Yeah. I speak to close-up magicians and they do the same trick, the same set. They do 5 tricks. That's it. They've done the same 5 tricks for 20 years. They never adapt. They never improve. They never add new magic. People book them for those 5 tricks. Those are the 5 tricks they do.
But then there are phenomenal magicians. So Faye wouldn't mind me saying she does 5 tricks and she's phenomenal at them.
She is.
But you're not booking those 5 tricks. You're booking Faye.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
And she says she's not an artist, but I would say she is.
I would agree. 100%. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you one last question, which is, what's next? What's left on your magical bucket list that you haven't achieved? Because we've just broke down your career. You've done a lot. You've traveled all over the world performing. You've built up a really successful business. You're now performing holiday parks. You're performing. I know you charge a lot more than pretty much anyone else out there. Like, you're, by any definition of the word, successful. Is there anything left? And you're lecturing. You're lecturing. You've done a lot of high-profile lectures, which is fantastic. And you've got your magic shop, and you're in the circle. And so many really good things have happened to you. And nobody would ever go, if you just rested on your laurels at this point and just carried on doing what you're doing and coasting. But one thing that I know about you, and it's come across in this interview in spades, is that you're very ambitious, you're very driven, and you're always looking to improve, adapt, evolve, whatever the word is, that it's you. So is there anything left that you want to achieve that you haven't done yet?
There's a few things. So I've also written 2 children's stories at the moment. So I've got Milo Swan and the Great Diamond Heist out there. And this year I finished my second one, which it's Polly Roger and the Pirate of Pelican Point. I'm currently writing Polly Roger and the Labyrinth of Asterius, which is the second Polly Roger book. And so Polly Roger's like an ongoing thing. Milo Swan got me into writing. I've always wanted to write, and in 2020 I had time. Polly Roger is real. She's like a real person. Like, I'm very, very close to that character. Like, and she doesn't exist, which is bizarre. Having something which is not real, but like, I love that character. Magic Circle, I want to get my AIMC, and that's a personal thing. I really want to do it. I really want to push myself further, because I'm not as good as I want to be, and I want to be better. And then I'd like to put together a adult night of magic, which I host. Not particularly performing magic, but hosting. And I'd like to. I've got lots of magic friends, and I'm very lucky that I live so close to London. So I would love to put together a night of magic with Faye, and there's a guy called. A lot of people haven't heard of this guy. Absolutely phenomenal, Chris Benkin. So he does horror themed. It's not horrible. It's not scary. Oh no, it is scary. It's like spooky. He tells ghost stories with magic
Oh, wow. That's an interesting niche.
in London. So like he's got a roller banner that he pulls up at the start. And it's got a ventriloquist dummy on it, like a really old ventriloquist dummy, and he tells a story about the ventriloquist dummy. And there's lots of magic that as he tells the story. And it's a horror. It's like something that you'd see on the Cabinet of Curiosities now on Netflix. The stories are about 20 minutes long, and they've got magic involved in them, but they are a a ghost story. Like they are quite horrific, but they're brilliant. So Chris Benkin, Faye Presto, and maybe a couple of other people as well, and put together a night of magic. In my local theatre. It's not something which, again, it's not something that I go, this is something to make loads of money off of. It's just something that I want to share with the world, really. It's these are people that I think are phenomenal, and I'd like you guys to see them too. Which and then money comes afterwards. I want to stop doing kids' parties altogether.
Oh, wow.
Which might seem strange, but I know what I enjoy the most, and it's being on a stage and performing cabaret. And I know that my cabaret can change depending on thing. So I'll always do kids parties for Hamleys. I'll always do kids parties for Wibbenwood, but that's a different type of kids party. That's me performing on a stage, as far as I'm concerned. Even if there's not a stage there. Whereas a village hall, doing that is not what I'm passionate about. I care about it. Again, it's one of those things that is so important. It's like Christmas. It's that kid's birthday party. It's mega important. It's the most important thing of that kid's year. It is so important. And I get that, but I'm not sure 100% it's the direction that I particularly want to continue in. I will continue to do kids' parties, but it might not be forever. And then I've also got Show Hero, which is a thing which I am doing. I'm doing the beta test for it in January, where I've got 3 entertainers, 2 Zoom calls a week, and they've all got goals that they want to achieve. And so for a month, I'm going to talk to them about branding, like as branding should be, not as it's orange. Branding, and about values, client values. And basically I'm going to mentor 3 people for a month. And I'm putting together a like course so that people can understand and push themselves to be artists, and we can sit down together and they can go, I like donuts. And I go, okay, you like donuts? Let's talk donuts. How can we make a magic trick out of donuts? Or I like this. And really pushing them to get the most out of them being an artist to where they want to get to. I had about 70 people that applied for it, which I really didn't expect. Obviously, it's free. The first month, I was like, January's free because I don't know how good I'm going to be at it. But yeah, two Zoom calls a week even, with 3 people, half an hour each, and really pushing them. But I kind of picked those 3 people that I have picked because I gave people a deadline to write me a little thing back saying why they wanted to do it. Some people didn't make the deadline. I'm like, well, if you can't make the deadline on this, then what I'm going to be asking you to do in January is going to be tough for you. It's not going to be the easiest thing for them. I'm not a show hero. They're their own hero. They're going to make their show what it needs to be. because everybody's got it in them. They just need a kick up the backside.
Yeah, that's great. So where can people go to find out more about this?
Well, I've picked those 3 people, and after I have done it in January, I will go, right, how much time of mine does it take up? Because each one's going to be individual to those people, and what their targets and their goals are. How is it a viable thing to actually do with other people? How much am I going to have to charge of my own time? How much of my own time does this take up? Is this something which I can do? So at the moment, nowhere. But come mid-February, I will know how much it costs, and it should only take a month to learn all this stuff. Like we're adults. It's a course. It's a training course, but it trains your brain to think differently about magic, and not just magic, about entertainment, to make these people better and to get them to where they want to be. So one guy that has said, I'm the best. I know that I'm the best in my area at doing kids' birthday parties, but I want to be on stage more. I want to be doing stage stuff. I go, well, in that case, I know. So that's one of the people I've picked, and I've gone, I know that I can help that person because that's where I was 5 years ago. I've had another person that said, I've got stuck in an under 6 rut. All the kids' parties that I do are under 6. But I want to do some 6 to 11-year-olds as well. And I want to, she's like, I'm fully booked with under 6. She's like, I don't need more work. I want to make my work bigger, and have more that I can offer to people. And I know that I can help with that. And somebody else is in the situation where they've said they lost their family. We were talking about the work-life balance thing. They got divorced. They don't see their children as much as they want to. And they were like, how do I work out this work-life balance thing? I've gone, we can help each other with that. But also they've said, I want to get back into being a full-time entertainer at the same time as having the work-life, because at the moment they've got a job and they're an entertainer, which means if you're working 5 days a week and your entertainment days are Saturday and Sunday, you're working 7 days a week. So they want to propel themselves. So by the end of 2023, they are out of the job, out of the day job. And in a year, there's no reason why you should, like I say, there might be times you struggle, but in a year, you should be able to give up your day job if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
And then in 2024, I'm doing a theatre tour.
You are?
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. The UK theatre tour.
That's great.
But that's not all like advertised and stuff. Yeah. But that's the thing as well. I've got a manager for that. I don't deal with that stuff. I just write the shows and stand on the stage and do it.
Wow, that's great. The future's very bright for you, isn't it, Frostie? You're doing great. You're doing fantastic. It's so good to see. It really is.
Fingers crossed.
It's amazing.
But then also what I will say as well is because I get imposter syndrome and I go, yeah, the future's bright and it sounds great, all of this, but there are also because it's really easy to listen to magicians and listen to podcasts and watch videos and all that kind of stuff like that and go, oh God, I wish it was like that. But you know what? I have really shitty days as well. And I think that's important to say that that's a thing, because like when with that meme, right? The meme thing with yourself, you're having a bad day, you see that and you go, oh man, I feel rubbish. And it doesn't matter how big you are. You could be David Copperfield. You're never going to see him going, oh, I feel rubbish. But that is a thing. Everybody feels like that. So much as it's because I also look at other people's entertainment pages and go, wow, like after I've just finished a job, I see something that somebody else has done on a Saturday, and I go, oh, wish I was doing that. Like it's one of those things that nothing will ever be good enough. So yeah, the future's bright, but so's yours, so's everybody else's. Everybody's future's bright, but it's also going to be rubbish as well along the way.
Yeah,
I'm a big advocate of mental health. It's and hearing how great somebody else's life isn't a good thing to hear.
There's highs and there's well, it's very easy, isn't it, these days on social media for
Yeah.
people to paint a picture of the perfect life and how amazing their life is and how they have everything together, whilst in reality they're a wreck. It's very easy to do that, and it's
Yeah.
dangerous. It's dangerous to do that as well.
And every morning I take my little tablet, which keeps me happy.
There you go. That's awesome, man. You know what? This has been an incredible interview. You are an amazing guy. You really are an amazing guy. And I want to say thank you so much for coming on the channel and doing the interview. Where can people connect with you? What's the best way? If people have watched this video and they like it and they want to register interest for Show Hero, if it becomes a thing, or maybe there's somebody who wants to book you for a lecture, or let's put all the links down in the description down below. What have we got? So first of all, where can people connect on Instagram?
Instagram, I think, is Magic Frostie at Magic Frostie. Frostie with an I and an A.
Okay.
Facebook is Chris Frosty Frost is the best one to go for, because my Frosty Entertainment page is just work stuff. Oh, that's something else that happened, which I should mention. I was Magic Frosty for so long, built up a huge following, and then somebody hacked my Magic Frosty page. So I had to start
Oh,
again.
did you get it
With
back?
no, so I had
Is
to
it still
start
out
again.
there?
Yeah, it's now like some Chinese clothing company. And so I had to start again. But it was and I was so upset and angry about it, but it's the best thing that ever happened, because I've now got the domain name for Frosty Entertainment as well, even though I'm still using Magic Frosty at the moment. But eventually everything will be under Frosty Entertainment, which will be an umbrella company for the Christmas stuff, me, my music, my books, my mini golf, everything. That's the best thing that ever happened. And it was a horrible thing at the time.
And that's the thing. At the time, you could have the worst thing. You can't beat yourself up over it because you never know how things are going to work out.
Yeah. But yeah, so Chris Frosty Frost on Facebook is the best place to find me. That's my personal Facebook. That's just add me as a friend, or if you do, but don't just add me as a friend. Send me a message first saying, "Hey, I'm," because if I don't know who you are, I won't accept you. Because but if you, I'm okay with not knowing who you are, but I don't want to have like just randoms on there. Complete randoms. It's a bizarre thing, isn't it? Facebook, Twitter. I don't have a clue what my Twitter thing is.
People still use Twitter.
Apparently, Twitter's a big deal, which is why I downloaded it. I think I've tweeted about 4 times. Um, Magic Frosty on Twitter. Um, oh, I don't know. Instagram and Facebook are probably the best places.
And that your magic shop, Magic Emporium, where can people go to check that out if they want one of those amazing spell books or something else, and check out everything that you've got?
So that's Frosty's Phantasmagorium, with PH, Phantasmagorium, on Facebook. But there's no magic spell books left at the moment. There's some Wizard of Oz books left. My book test. I think there's about 4 of them left, but I'm probably going to keep one of them. So there's probably only about 3 left, because somebody spilled a drink over it the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness, not my book. I'm glad I didn't pay £100 for a book test. And somebody then spills a drink over the book. Best book test ever, I think. But then I would think that because I made it, and that's not
big. I'm a big book test fan. I really like book tests.
So this is a book test which you throw into your audience. They can read it from cover to cover. There is no, and they would read The Wizard of Oz, and you don't need to be anywhere near them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one that, and every magician that I've shown it to has gone, what? Huh? It's my Penn and Teller Fool Us trick. If I ever pull my finger out and actually do that, that would be the thing that I would do there.
Wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds amazing.
And you can have different results.
That's amazing, Chris. That's brilliant. I might go and check that out myself. That's awesome. Wow.
It is.
Yeah. No idea. That's great.
I'll
Congratulations.
tell you afterwards.
That's brilliant. So people can go check out there. One more time, Chris, thank you so much for being on the channel. Thank you so much. I want everybody who's watching this to leave a comment down below and let Frostie know what you thought of the interview. I thought it's amazing. Let him know what you think. Don't forget to connect with him. And yeah, congratulations on all your success. And I know that you're going to continue to be successful because I can just tell that's how you're wired. So one more time, Frostie, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Guys, I'll see you again soon with another video. Thank you very much for watching. On behalf of Chris Frostie Frost, my name's Craig from Magic TV.